with all that is happening today. And with that, I'm going to skip this because Chinila did a great job presenting me. And with this, I wanted it to portray you current situation in the world, right? And this is what was happening already before all that is happening today, the COVID-19. Many people started to see so many things that are happening in the transformative technologies that are changing the way we live in general and the way we work, right? Like Internet of Things, augmented reality, right? Expansion, massive expansion of data, 5G as a way to communicate in a very high speed way. But if you combine that with the rest of the things that are happening in the world, like dynamic of the globalization, for example, trades, policies more flexible or less flexible, for example, and all the demography changes that we are experiencing, like the Gen Z arriving to the workplace, the next billion of people, and how cities are expanding, you find a lot of different things that are changing the way we live and we work. The thing is that if you think about it, one of the main things here that we have to adapt is leadership. Because you as a leader, as an entrepreneur, leader of your group, leader of what, or of your community, for example, if you're a volunteer as well, all these things comes into the environment and change the way you used to do things. And if you think about it, in top of all of this, right, we have now the COVID-19 crisis, which at the end I will share a little bit of comparison on how this is accelerating this transformation. So I will do a little reference here for all of you that already know this. It's a good refreshment. And for those who don't, I want to share with you that we are in the stage of Industry 4.0, as we call it, opening in the 5.0 already. All the different technological or changes in the way we work, in the way we do things, have transformed how humanity relates to each other, and has transformed as well leadership. For example, when we started at what we call Industry 1.0 with the steam power machine, right? That's where we found out that 6 years of school weren't enough. And then that's how we turned to 12 years of basic school, for example. And so on, right? When we got Industry 2.0 with mass production, assembly line, and so on. And we were before, let's say 5 years ago, we were in industry, started Industry 4.0. What is the difference here? The difference is that this is the first time in history that we are entering in a world that, or we are there already, that artificial intelligence, for example, is changing some paradigms. And this is because artificial intelligence can do cognitive work that we thought it was exclusive for humans. So that changes a big paradigm in what we had been seeing in the previous revolution industries, right? And change the way we operate. And an example of that are, the things that you see on the right, for example, all the things that change the paradigms, the way we live, right? For example, 3D printing, which now, you can build a house instead of blocks and mixing and everything. You have 3D printers that can build a house, which changes totally construction industry paradigms, for example. Or as industry is very representative of 4.0, like Uber, Netflix, Airbnb. The blockchain and the big data explosion that we have today, and so on. All these things, are these coming in our world. The letters there that you see in the top, that it is called VUCA, right? The word is vulnerable, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And that is what defines our environments today, not only at where we work, but at home as well. And this demands a different look at leadership. So with that, I'm calling out here the Institute of the Future, where his president Bob Johansen is calling out. He was calling out 2 years ago already. Many leaders were trained and operate, and they have training and they have to operate, experience and operate in environments that no longer exist. This means that we have to upskill ourselves to a place where we can operate in a world that is distributed, where knowledge is no longer in one person, and also in a game that changes constantly. And that demands some specific skills that we are going to be talking about. So one thing that people ask me a lot is that, well, yeah, everything is changing, but is this urgent really? Well, it is. It is. Leadership development had always been a challenge in every organization. If you ask any CEO, if you ask any community leader, any, for example, entrepreneur, they will say, well, thinking about people, one of my main challenges is develop leadership, which is something that is not new, but that now is incremented in this digital age. Not because leaders have to know technology, how to work with it, but they have to learn how to use that technology to achieve goals in a very unstable environment. And the gap is that high performance leaders today, many of them have skills that are no longer, as I mentioned, valid in a totally different world. The most critical thing is the speed. Before COVID-19, the projection for 2030 is that 80% of what we do will be either automated, changed, AI, and 20% of what we do in general in the world will remain the same. So this had been accelerated tremendously with the COVID-19 situation. So yeah, it is urgent, and it's becoming more and more urgent and evident. What are the recommendations? And here I'm calling out Deloitte Global Human Capital Trends. This is a document that you can find in the internet. The recommendations are develop digital leaders, promote leaders of new generations that are native digital, implement new organizational leadership models. And we are going to talk a little bit about each of these. So one of the things that people sometimes are afraid, sometimes are excited about, I am one of the ones that are excited about, is analysis on where machines can replace humans and when they can't yet, right? Based on what we know of technology that is out there in the world. And this specific analysis of McKinsey is an analysis on the types of work and what are the ones that are more automatable, that is in the right side, and what are the ones that are less automatable. And of course, managing people, manage leaders, that is the less automatable task that there is. So that's why it's so important to polish the skills and to be able to operate and function in this new world. This is the statistics that comes with that analysis, and the way you read this data is this. They ask companies around the world, and they ask them, what is the gap that you find when you are looking for ready now leaders? If you are looking, for example, for 50 or 100 leaders digital ready with these skills, what is the gap that you find? And as you can see, all over the world, there's a big gap on what is in the market and what and can be sourced in the companies, and what they are demanding. So yes, this is a subject that is becoming more and more critical, accelerated as well by the current situation. So now that we know specifically, what is the problem, you will ask me then, okay, so what do we do then? Okay. Let's talk about a little bit about what we can do about it, and how we can cope the situation. Well, The first thing, and hope you can read it all. Okay. Oops. Going back. Going back. The first thing is organizational change is unavoidable. It will happen sooner or later, even you are the leader of the organization, entrepreneur, or if you are in a big organization, if you are a community leader. The way we used to organize our companies is this way, and the way it's going to be is more like in a network environment, and we're seeing that more and more, right? Networks where culture and shared values are the lead, are the key. Mostly geo-dispersed, which is something that adds complexity to it, and we have to be as leaders ready to do that. With transparent goals and projects everywhere, and this touches a very sensitive nerve, to project management profession, because we cannot expect anymore that, for example, the PMO will contain all the projects and there's nothing else happening outside the organization. That will not go. The speed at what we need things to happen, you will see projects coming from every part of the organization where things got to be accelerated in a way that PMOs will not be able. You cannot have enough project managers to handle all of this, and then you have operational leaders or leaders in different parts of the organization that can drive those transformations. And you, as a PMO leader, if you are, you have to find the way to add value to that process. If you fight that process, that my recommendation is it won't last long. So that is one recommendation there. I lived it already, and it's better to bear with the process. People will be recognized more and more by their skills and the competencies, and not by their position. This means that we all have to unlearn the old way of managing and learn a new way. If you see the organizational evolution below of digital transformation management, the level 1 of maturity started at, some sales here and there doing some transformation on how they work and what they do. And then in the second level of maturity here, you can see, okay, many companies said, okay, we need a digital strategy to transform, right? To the C-suite and sales, in the different areas. Now, the third level is, okay, areas completely transformed. There are no projects anymore. That's the way they operate naturally, right? And then you continue automating until the last space of maturity. Here are the industry 4.0 companies, for example, like I mentioned, so many, Netflix, Google, etc., where digital transformation is the way they live every day in every organization. So COVID-19 had accelerated some companies from this level and this level to this level in a way that we weren't expecting, and that is important for us as leaders to know. So what we should do then? Okay, so Yaravi, you already scared me, or you already told me I need to polish my skills. Okay, how do I do that? Well, the first thing is remove paradigms, and that is not easy. I know, and it's not. It's more difficult in some cultures than others. Like, for example, Latin American culture, where we are very we rely a lot on seniority, for example. But in my work with all the world in different different cultures, different way of thinking, Europe, Asia, North America, I have seen more and more awareness, regardless of the culture, of removing these paradigms, right? And the paradigms, I'm not going to mention all of them, but you have, as I mentioned, the source. And some paradigms that we have to eliminate in the left hand are practices focuses only on execution, like the day-to-day, and that's it. That has to be replaced for a more balanced vision where you execute and also you dedicate efforts as well and resources to transformation and vision. The other one is unlearn. As I mentioned, unlearn is different than learning new things. Or learn means that you have to leave out some of the things that you naturally do to replace for new ones, and that requests and a stretch from you, from your capabilities, right? And practice that. And the other one is be alterocentric. This means that you change the center from yourself, and you are able to focus or to work in networks, right? Where leadership in certain circumstances can be rotated, and you are part of that group. The growing ambiguity calls us to have more balance, right? Paradigms that you should adopt, right? Well, stop thinking about the future is infinite. And thinking about, oh, there's no point of planning after 2 years or of 3 years, let's focus on now. Well, that paradigm will not get you to places, given all the facts that I'm giving you, right? So again, dedicate time to vision. And if you think that, well, I'm not influenced enough to influence the whole company, for example, do it in your environment of influence. Do it in your group. Do it inside your community, inside your company, right? The new mindset of adaptability and exploration and learning requires a lot of effort, because it's implicit that you're going to fail sometimes and learn from that, and that is not easy for humans. But we have to stretch and try if we want to keep relevant and being leaders that are relevant in the current environment. I don't know, Shanila, if you want me to pause here to get some questions, or you want me to continue with the next slide.
I haven't received actually questions as of now completely, so I think you can continue. I will give you let you know after 10 minutes again. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Hey, teams, be free to ask. Okay, don't worry. So well, then you will ask me, okay, Yaravi, what are those skills? If we have many project managers, leaders of PMOs, and so on in the line, you want a list. So here's the list, right? And in taking consideration this list, the speed of this list was made before COVID-19. So I suggest that, for example, this box that is here is, you're gonna see the skills of today, like things that the companies expect you to have. And in the second box, it was like 5 years ahead, but those 5 years ahead are more like today, given the current situation. So first, in the social area, what are those skills for the new data leaders? Well, the expectation is that these leaders can be able to build relationships and synergies, not only inside the company, but also outside the company or the organization, can build relationships with partners, even with competitors, right? What is called frenemies, right? Sometimes you need to partner with a competitor in a certain specific way to do one to promote one thing, and then you continue being competitors. So there is an ability to build those relationships. And now in the digital world, well, remotely, right? Add to that gotta be remotely. Clearly communicates the vision. I've known so many leaders that are very good at what they do, but they cannot engage people in the vision of the mid and long term. And in that way, people get disengaged a lot. In a world that changes a lot, you need that changing constantly. You need to be able to communicate clear vision on where are things, where are we going, and why we're doing that. The other ability is the ability to interpret and read data and build solutions and storytelling based on that data, not showing all the 25 pages of numbers, which is good to sustain the storytelling that is behind. And that is a skill. You can find a lot of trainings on that. This is one that you can build it very easy if you don't have it. Efficient use of social media, which is the new way of communicating. This is one that I'm polishing myself to be more efficient to communicate in social media. Now, from the organizational perspective, what are those skills that you should develop based on the research? And the first one is omnicircular vision. It is an ability to understand the whole environment and see where you're placed in that environment. Why is this? Because we had been for many years in many companies working silos. Like, okay, this is my thing. I will finish my thing. We are delivering good results in my thing, and we're going to evolve in my own silo. Well, that is no longer anymore. You remember that network that I showed you before, right? So if you don't have it, you have to start developing that vision of what is happening outside my silo, my group, and start building those relationships. Encourage collaboration and acquire and cultivate talents. People, organizations wants people that can breathe other leaders, that can raise them, like that can cultivate that, and manage talent to reach goals, which is more a regular one. As a personal skills, one of the main things is be able to have a long-term scenarios, belonging scenarios, have a global mindset. Don't think about only your region, what works in your region, but if this is transferable to other cultures, to other groups, and to other places, an agile culture, and not talking about specifically about agile techniques, talking about agile culture, try, fail, to deliver value in short circles, and then and try again. If you fail hard, fail fast. And introspection, right? That analysis that comes with it. Now, this was for 5 years ahead. I removed that because in these times, it's coming more and more. But one of these that I wanted to call out too, because I think that the others are very obvious, but I want to call out voluntary commitment to unknown. And this is you are in your safe zone, and then comes an initiative that needs to be leaded, that nobody knows how it's going to end, but it's something that will add creativity and innovation to what you do. And you will see leaders saying, hey, I want to try that, right? That is voluntary commitment to unknown. Voluntary commitment to things that you have never done before, but that will teach you how to be ahead of edge or put the company in another place, right? And the other that I wanted to call out is look back from the future. This means in 2 years, the vision is ABC. What I have to do today to get there, and continue in parallel to continue operating and not stopping everything that I'm doing. And that is something that is highly needed, because if you don't build those in parallel, you will end up being, finishing all that is needed for today and having no vision for tomorrow, and not working on building anything for tomorrow. And that is something that is highly needed in all types of organizations right now. Well, the last one I want to call out, because the other ones are already kind of mentioned it back and forth, but one is to solve problems in an automatable way. If we think about that 80% of the repetitive tasks are going to be automated, then you cannot design solutions today that are not feasible for automation. And this goes a lot to processes. For example, I've seen leaders, okay, let's change the process and do it this way and this way and this way. And the idea is that in that process of definition or changing or suggesting or design thinking, whatever, think about, even if you don't have the technology today, how that will translate in an automated way. Because it is a trend. So if you design things that are not fit to that, they will be obsolete very soon. The last one, and the most critical one, it was for 2030. I think it is, again, accelerating. Living versatile liquid structures. Being able to do what is called peer-driven. And let me give you an example here. I was working with this is a peer of mine. He's vice president of a legal department at my company, and he runs many regions, right? And one day I see him, with a lot of interns, managers, directors from his team, like in a circle, design thinking. And he called me out, hey, Yaravi, can you help me with this? And I was like, what are you guys doing? And he was like, I'm here listening to ideas and building a vision for the legal department. This is not a technical department, the legal department, do digital transformation, because blockchain and all the things we are figuring out, even though we cannot implement it today, we are figuring out how that will play for us. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then he was, and then there were some interns there, and he was pitching an idea. And this intern says, hey, Tony, that is not good because A, B, and C. And he was very pleased to hear that. He was like, okay, cool, you're right. Pitch my idea. What is your idea? That is peer driven. That is a process that that allows all ideas, regardless on who has what position in the organization. And that is what is going to be highly needed in a very changing environment where you have to design and implement things that are going to be placed in an environment that is changing constantly. Hope it makes sense to all of you. Think, act, and react differently. That is what we are saying here. It is important to act, think differently in a situation that is totally different. Chinila, you have one question. You said, do you want me to stop and review that question? I think it will be good.
We have 3 questions actually now, so I think let's have those questions. So okay, so the first question is related specifically to healthcare, where technology and AI seems to be replacing and taking jobs of a good number of human resource, if not all. So how can a leader prepare him or herself and his people for sustainability, job security, and better healthcare provision?
Okay. I will answer with what I know, because we're working with a lot of healthcare facilitators. The one thing is job security doesn't exist anymore for nobody. So I'm sorry to say, and I think, everybody needs great news right now, but the reality is that job security, you have to provide it to yourself. How do you provide for yourself job security? Upskilling yourself. Because if you think that the companies will say, okay, we will continue doing things as they were to keep job security, that will not happen. So what job security for job security now, what you can do as a leader to the people that works, for example, in a changing environment very fast, like healthcare, is help them to upskill to the things that they can provide and that cannot be automated. For example, many organizations are using AI to map out COVID-19 and so on, DNA and the other things to have a vaccine. I hope it comes soon. What you can do as a leader is you are not going to be able to fight that. What you can do as a leader is, okay, what are the other things that the AI and the machine cannot do that we, with our experience, with our creative process, because so far AI cannot be creative as humans. So focus on the areas where you can add value as a person, as a leader, as a peer, because the transformation will continue. Hope this works as an answer for you.
All right, so we have the second question, and it is from Ms. Zara Khan, that could you please elaborate a bit on omni-circular vision?
Yes, of course. So omni-circular vision, if you are sitting in front of your screen, for example, and most of us, when we're working, we see right, we see left, right? Less people looks up, looks down, right, and do a full around. They will look a little crazy. But that is omni-circular vision. Most of the times when we are inside our organizations, we are so focused on what we have to deliver as a group that we forget to see the whole environment of what is happening and the context of it, to make sure that what you are doing fits in the rest of the environment and the outside environment. Let me put you an example. I had a colleague that was asking, hey, can you provide some solutions, yada yada yada, supply chain for this country, because we are facing A, B, and C situation, right? And it seems, the numbers were there, everything was there, and so on. But this country is very close to three other countries that are having an internal conflict. And the assumption for him was, if we improve this, we're going to be able to get to the goal. And then I was asking him and his team, okay, are you understanding that around this area you're going to have these roadblocks that will not allow you? And he was saying, well, that's not my problem. And I said, yes, it's a problem, because if it will get to you. Let's try to design something that works with not only with what you need, but the rest of the things that are in the area, so you can do something sustainable. I hope this is a good example that can clarify. It's leaving out on thinking about only in your area, in your project, for example. It happens a lot with project managers, right? I need to finish this project. This is the goal of the project. I need to do it this way. And then the environment is changing, but you want to continue with that. That is, if you develop an omnicircular vision, you can adapt to the environment and say, okay, maybe I delivered this now and this later because this is going to change and might not longer be relevant. Hope that works.
All right, so we have the third question from Ms. Fozia, and the question is, the skills presented place a huge onus on the PM to develop and keep relationships and essentially be an extrovert. What about people who do not have a matured EQ?
Who do not have a mature, I didn't get that.
That's emotional quotient.
Yes. So, well, if people don't have emotional culture, what we call emotional intelligence or so on, and it's time to start developing, because what I'm trying to pitch to you guys here is that what we're seeing in the world is that the more mechanic and things that are non-related to human process of thinking are going to be either automated, displaced, or so. The value is to concentrate it more and more in the things that you as human can do that nobody else can do for you or for your company. So I know that we are very accomplished in tactical things. You saw my profile, right? Like many certifications, and so that is not bad. That is good. You should have that knowledge assets, but in the same way, you have to cultivate these other skills that will allow you to continue being relevant. And if you don't have them, you can start exercising or looking for ways to get them. Does that make sense?
Can you hear me? Can't hear you. I think you can continue the session. You're sharing or stop sharing, I guess. Screen is not heard.
Oh, I can hear you, Sherry.
Yeah, now we can hear you. So your screen, I think, stop. You have stopped sharing. Your screen is not shared. So can you share your screen again?
Yes, I
can
can.
just see your video.
Okay, do we have any additional other questions or we don't?
I just have these 3 questions now, so I think you can continue, but just I think we use the screen, I guess.
Good. So seems like I cannot share my screen, Cherry, for some reason. If you make me a host, but let me continue. Okay. So team, while we fix the screen sharing, wanted to continue saying that, you know, the last slide that you were seeing was about think, act, and react differently. This means have a different face or approach to ambiguity, and continue having, you know, continue exercising that. It is sometimes you cannot do in your work, for example. Well, PMI is a good way, or volunteer work is a good way to exercise things that maybe you cannot do in a more stiff or closed environment, for example. Or not only PMI, other engagements that you do, other volunteer work that you do. If you do an analysis of that list of skills that I showed you, analyze yourself, see where you have a strong traits there, and what others you have to exercise. And you can then that you can go then and say, hey, I can raise my hand and take a project that I have never done. I can lead this for the company temporarily, for example, or I got in my own, for example, in my own environment or in my own company, if I'm an entrepreneur, maybe I can try this new line of services. Of course, with a balanced risk. Let me see how it goes with the screen. Okay. You will have to share from your screen.
Okay, I'm sharing screen.
Yeah, because the sharing content is great for me.
Okay, I'm sharing it. Just give me a minute.
Good.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
I can. Good. So here are, as I was mentioning, right? Think, act, and react differently to ambiguity is one of the things that we have to start doing. To the question before, what should